Hmm. And we're soon going to get to know more about you.
Sure.
I think we are live, and can we start? Or do we have 2 more minutes?
We do have 2 more minutes. I think we should allow for more people to come.
Right, ma'am.
In fact, I'm all for giving grace period. I think life is just too full of deadlines and timelines. And
Right, ma'am.
Sorry, is there an annoying background noise coming from my mic?
No, sir. You're perfectly audible, and there's no background noise.
All right, sir.
So without further ado, I think we can start. Very warm welcome to all present, and good afternoon to our esteemed speaker, as well as Ms. Karon Shaiva, ma'am. Today, on behalf of eClub SJM Sound, we are delighted to host a distinguished personality as our guest speaker in our eTalk show. Dr. Kailash Nadh is currently the CTO of Zerodha. He obtained a BSc in Computer Science in 2008 and a PhD in Artificial Intelligence and Computational Linguistics from Middlesex University, London. From coding at the age of 12 to building several open source projects and blogging platforms in his early years, Dr. Kailash Nadh has come a long way. After coming back to India in 2013, he founded the tech team at Zerodha, now India's largest stockbroker. He also volunteers at FOSS United, which he started in 2020 for the promotion of open source software in India. We also have with us Ms. Karon Shaiva, ma'am, who is a social entrepreneur, mentor, writer, and speaker. She firmly believes in the power of citizenship, entrepreneurship, and partnership for addressing some of the world's most pressing issues. A self-professed academician at heart, she has designed multiple theories and models based on the RISE shared values, which stand for responsible, inclusive, sustainable, and eco-friendly, for driving positive action by individuals and institutions. With that, I welcome Kailash sir and Karan ma'am. And with that, over to you, ma'am. I think you can start the session.
Thank you so very much, Rai. I appreciate that. And of course, it's always a pleasure to come back to the Entrepreneurship Club and get the wonderful opportunity to meet wonderful people like Kailash, right? So I get to do research every time I get to interview someone. And I did that for you as well, Kailash. And I went and checked your profile. And I see absurdist. I'm like, okay, first let me go and find out what this means, right? And so I read it, and very, very interesting, I must say. And, sometimes the way a person describes themselves is in itself a huge indication of the person. So I think I'm truly, truly pleased to be able to be talking to an absurdist, a tinkerer, and a developer. Yeah. So looking forward to this, and welcome once again on behalf of the Entrepreneurship Club team and all of us over here. Right. So absurdist, right? How do you really look at this world of chaos? Because that's how you look at it, right?
Yeah.
But say that there's no purpose. Because obviously you found purpose, isn't it?
So that really is the point of absurdism. There is no inherent purpose, but you can create your own. So as long as you accept that the world is chaotic and you might be able to carve a little purpose out for yourself, you are maybe slightly more liberated from the delusions that, there is a purpose carved out for you. So you can always try and make your own. So absurdism is really just that in a nutshell. And I kind of like to wear it on my sleeve because that really drives everything I do, every bit of work that I do, every decision I make in my life. So, I'm a software developer, really. So all the work that I do there, open source software, hobby projects, it's all really a manifestation of that worldview that there's no meaning, might as well have fun and, be useful.
Awesome. And I just love that as well, because, I always say that I just admire people with laser focus. They know exactly what they want to do, and I admire them, right? No questions. But I'm not one of them. Yeah, and I think I see that kind of being reflected. So let's go to the other word, which was tinkerer, right?
Yeah.
And you've done a lot of research, or at least used to, and now as your blog says, you haven't done research in a life. One of the biggest problems with research is that you don't see the commercialization of it, you do not see the application of it. So especially when we have students who are doing so much, in terms of knowledge building, and how would you advise them, or what would you talk about the value of research in commercial enterprise and commercialization of any kind of research project?
I think, again, the absurdist philosophy applies there. One has to first accept that no matter what bit of research one picks, there's no guarantee that it'll be successful or it'll be commercially viable. Maybe it is commercially viable, but there are a million other factors that may make it unviable. So I think if you just accept that it is a lot of chaos out there, I think it might just help you build better focus on what you're picking. And with that lens in hand, you may be able to just narrow down onto something that has much higher odds of succeeding. So just to relate my own experience, when I became a researcher, I didn't really know what I was getting into. But like you said, because I was a tinkerer, it sounded really interesting, and I wanted to get my feet wet with it. So I joined the program, and it turned out to be a really great, amazing academic experience. Now, my research was in artificial intelligence, a tiny subset of it. And AI and many subsets today have become very mainstream. But the bit that I studied, neurocomputation, I think that has kind of it's being left behind. Many other kinds of artificial intelligence computation have become mainstream. So if I were to look for commercial viability back then, I don't think that would have worked out. But because there are strong overlaps, you could use that same foundation to easily branch out to something else. So I think one has to be realistic. What you're focusing on right now, that exact thing may not work out commercially or in the industry, but once you build a fundamental sense foundation, you could pivot. So you just have to be ready for all of these scenarios and be very, very realistic.
Yeah. Right. But in that realism, you need to have some goal that ultimately it's not only knowledge, it is something that you want to apply as well. Would you say that would be true?
Yes, that also depends on the kind of work that you end up doing. You might start out with a specific goal, specific thesis, but midway you might realize that
Sure.
it can't work like you expected it to. That is also valid science. So these things pivot, and it's extremely difficult to predict with high accuracy how research will turn out, because one just has to look at statistics, right? If you look at the vast amounts of science, I'm picking science here as an example, scientific research that's happening around the world, how much of that really ends up in the industry directly?
Absolutely.
Very little. So it may or may not work, but once you accept these facts, the ground reality, you may be able to improve your odds and focus towards industry and whatnot.
Great. So I'm going to advise all our budding entrepreneurs who are out there with us just now on this call, please use the chat box. Yeah. Please put in questions, thoughts, comments, feedback, because that's going to be the way to make sure that we keep this conversation really going and flowing and as interesting as it can get, right? But also as relevant as it can get for all of you, because I'm sure that's what both Kailash and I have as a purpose right now and as a goal, that we do have a conversation that we are finding. So please go and do that, so that, why you guys don't do any type of marketing? Okay, fine. We'll come to questions on the chat box, but I'm glad that there is instant reaction at least. So that's great. Okay, so to kind of continue, so from tinkerer is obviously developer, right? And you have, of course, used, all your lives tinkering towards going towards being what you are today as a CTO. But it was not just a direct jump from being a developer to a CTO. You've obviously gone through multiple phases in your career. How has that helped you to get where you are, and what was it? Because I can already say, because of the first two, that you obviously didn't plan this out, but it has evolved. So how, if you could share that journey with us, would be really awesome. Thank you.
I think I am pretty much where I was, let's say 10 years ago, exactly, in terms of what I was doing and what I wanted to do, which was write software, work with technology, tinker, experiment, have fun, and also make a living. Today, I don't really have to worry about making a living. Thankfully, that worked out, but everything else has been exactly what I've always wanted to do. One of the reasons why I left academia and ceased doing research was I wanted the freedom to just tinker. If I felt like writing a piece of software just to experiment with it, I wanted to do that. So it was completely random how I met Nitin. Nitin's the founder of Zerodha. And we ended up doing this because I have no background in finance, absolutely no connection to stock markets or no interest in stock markets even today. But it really worked out with the both of us as people. I saw as a tinkerer with itchy hands for new projects. I saw that back in 2012, the capital markets technology industry in India was really a green field. There was very little innovation happening. Nobody was really writing software. And I met Nitin. We hit it off, and I figured, yeah, I could do a lot of projects here. Yes, it happens to be stock markets, but that's just part of it. And that's how it started. And the title CTO, yes, it implies certain things, but as I said, the work I do today is exactly the work I was doing 9 years ago when we started technology at Zerodha. Sitting and writing software, working on problems, having fun doing it. And everything else, like you said, be ending up where we are today, that's right place, right time, luck. So no matter how much work you do, at the end of the day, if you're not lucky, yeah. So it's been random, serendipitous, but I was tinkering then, I was tinkering now. So there's that.
Great. I'm going to take you back just a little bit more, actually, because what I wanted to hope to maybe also learn is what are those kind of lessons that you learned from your previous enterprises that perhaps, or initiatives that you took that perhaps helped you do a more grounded, let's say, or a more successful opportunity with Zerodha? So how would that have happened?
So that's very interesting. It's a little hard to quantify, honestly. I would say it's the personal philosophies of the people in charge, really. And Nitin and I, we share very similar philosophies. He's not a technologist, I'm a technologist. And for us to have come together without really having the shared knowledge or interest or hands-on experience in technology, that was just, like I said, serendipitous. So to be grounded, to always work with the first principles approach, be it wherever, technology or not, you have to have certain personal philosophies. So before Zerodha, I was a researcher and I was a tinkerer. I was sitting at home and building hobby software, giving it out. I still do that today. And I'd make a living writing software for others. I was a freelance developer. So I had no corporate experience per se. So not really having any sort of corporate enterprise conditioning, I would say was a big factor on how we ended up building Zerodha after that point. And same with Nitin. He did not really have any sort of corporate conditioning. I don't mean it really in a derogatory sense, but so we weren't really bounded by expectations of frameworks. Like you said earlier, right? There are too many rules and deadlines and whatnot really in life. So we have a much more open, grounded, common sense based philosophy. We do something because we're convinced and we have expertise in it, not because somebody else forced us to do, or we suffer from FOMO. These are the kind of things that really drive organizations as they grow. Or the competitor is doing something, we must act now. We've always taken a grounded approach. We're doing this because it makes sense objectively. So we share those same philosophies, and many of us at Zerodha today, we share the same philosophies and we continue to operate in the same manner. So it's really the philosophy that drives the work, not the other way around.
Right. Great. Awesome. So you were, of course, in the UK, and you then, moved from there to India. So obviously you have a big belief in the Indian tech industry. Otherwise you would not be here. How does that compare, when you look at both the Indian technology scenario and then the global? Of course, it becomes very vast to do that, but I would still request you if you could maybe make some comparisons so that the student entrepreneurs get some sense of where the opportunity lies, where are the challenges.
I didn't move back because I saw big potential in the technology industry in India, by the way. So this was 2011 when I moved back, and the industry was very, very, very nascent compared to what we have today. We've grown exponentially in the last 10 years. So I moved back because maybe it was irrational, maybe it was my absurdist view. It just felt right. I wanted to be back. I'm from here. I feel comfortable here. I like it here. I want to write software for people here. So it was really that. And it wasn't a career move whatsoever, because when I moved back, I moved back straight into my bedroom. And I started working on projects that I was always working on. And moving to Bangalore was completely random. Meeting Nitin was completely random. I wasn't looking for a job either because I didn't want to. I just wanted to continue working on projects and make a living. So it was that. Now, that was me. But speaking of the Indian industry, I think just like the mobile internet revolution here, our tech industry has leapfrogged. We didn't really have that slow Silicon Valley-esque growth. We just went from practically 0 to 100 in less than a decade.
Sure.
And there is crazy number of things happening here, and opportunities, humongous number of opportunities. And of course, I mean, some of it seems to be unsustainable, certain trends in the industry. But yeah, there is tons of things, exciting things happening here in all sorts of sectors, be it consumer technology, be it technology aimed at the environment or agriculture, whatever you pick, there is technology stuff happening. So industries are expanding rapidly, and yeah, huge number of opportunities and exciting stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. So you said every sector has an opportunity, and I completely believe in that as well. However, opportunity is one part of it, right? The other part of it is the problem statements, right, that exist with us. And I, as you may have heard, I'm a big believer looking at problems first and then looking at, what can you do to solve them, right? And then maybe hopefully make it a success. In that situation, in the technology field, what would be the kind of problems you think that technology can solve, or problems in technology that you can solve, either which ways, as an application or as a scientific field, which you feel would be something that you'd like to direct attention towards, or you think is important for us to keep in mind?
That's a very difficult question to answer, because in a country like India, which is way too complex and chaotic, and India's the problem landscape here is a spectrum of infinity. So one doesn't even know where to start answering that question. Okay. That said, the smartphone, the 4G revolution has definitely maybe inadvertently enabled inclusion on a massive scale. People who were never online have been online, and they're participating very actively. So I think it's a great time to use technology to solve social problems also. And I would say that's really, it's an area that is overlooked. It's changing slowly, but it's overlooked. It's because it's so easy to just target the top 2-3% of the Indian population who have expendable income, who have smartphone access, devices, computers, they're savvy. But there's this humongous, there are many different groups of massive populations, bigger than entire countries. So if one is looking for problems to solve, I don't even know where to start. Okay. And another one would be things related to the environment. This is something we are also, quite passionate about at Zerodha, and we've been attempting to work with grassroots organizations working on environmental problems, climate issues. It's not a technology problem. It doesn't require a technology solution. It can't be fixed. Climate change can't be fixed with technology, but you could use technology to make a lot of problem solving easier. So I'm sorry, I can't answer that question.
No, don't worry. I think, as you said, it is a difficult question, but if it is a question that we can just think about sometimes, I think that's more than enough to get us started down the road to, solving some of those problems. So I think, if I look at the chat box and some of the questions that I start seeing over here, I think most of them are looking at saying, what would it take to get and be successful like you, right? Someone wants to be like Elon Musk, right? So what is success, and what is the road to success like?
I think success is probably one of the most missold, misadvertised, misunderstood, misclassified, misquantified words out there. There are tens of thousands of books that sell you success. This is the way to be successful in all aspects of life. But you said, successful like me. I don't really know, what does that even mean, right? So what success means to me, and what somebody looking at me thinks of my idea, thinks of my view of success would be completely different.
Sure.
And I don't think this is purely subjective, anecdotal. This is my personal view. I don't think one would ever feel that they've hit peak success and be satisfied with it. It's just one of those things that keep on moving. So, that's the thing about very specific goals. I want to be the CEO of this company. Let's say that's your life goal. You end up being a CEO. What next? Life will suddenly become meaningless. Absolutely. And then you'll realize that being a CEO is not really, all that fun or fine or dandy. Everybody's got problems. Everybody's got personal problems. Everybody's got business problems. And it's a huge headache, really. So that, as I said, the title CTO really means nothing. I'm a developer. Yes, I'm in charge of technology, and I happen to have the title of CTO. I could have had some other title also. I could have ended up wherever. But my view of success is just being content with what you like doing. And that is, again, very strongly tied with ideas of absurdism or even a bit of stoicism. If you like, not everyone can come up with things that they like doing. But if you manage to find a hobby, be it whatever, and that you unconditionally enjoy, and you're able to do that while being able to make a living, that is success, in some sense in my book. Because very specific concrete goals, they are, 99.9% of the times it doesn't work out. It's just statistics. Let's say there are a million students across the world. They all want to be CEOs. You can't have a million CEOs of top companies, right? That's maybe 100 people can. So statistically, everybody is really not said to be successful when you look at these concrete goals. So you just have to be content and find some purpose that sustains you emotionally, mentally, and financially.
Absolutely. That was so well said. That's great. And, you spoke about taking a break and managing issues because there are so many problems. So we have a question here that says, how do you handle the business pressure? So, want to tell us something about that?
Business pressure is also a very difficult term to quantify. For us, we are an extremely critical financial business. We are regulated by 5 different entities. So just that regulatory pressure is immense, and that is completely different from unregulated companies and businesses. Then you've got pressure from users. We are an institution that handles huge amounts of money on behalf of others, people's life savings. So there's that pressure. When something goes wrong, there's that pressure. There could be, markets are completely unpredictable. So when markets are falling, people lose money, and you're at the receiving end, even though, you're just a facilitator. So the pressure is distributed on a really wide spectrum. And today it could be regulatory pressure here. Tomorrow it could be business pressure here. I mean, it varies. So you just have to be realistic about it. I mean, that's why I think, I keep coming back to this whole thing about absurdism and being grounded. One has to be realistic. Today there's a business. Tomorrow there might not be a business. Empires fall in just a handful of years. What is a business, right? So if you're realistic and you kind of condition yourself to accept highs and lows because you're not constantly looking at a certain metric of success, then it helps you cope with pressure better. If you have a goal to, let's say, attain X revenue, or let's say 10 million users in 3 years, that's probably unattainable. But we don't have such goals. We just want to go with the flow and be, safe and sustainable. So that worldview helps us deal with all sorts of pressure.
Yeah, but safe and sustainable, as you just mentioned about, is a very difficult condition to survive and kind of maintain, right? More so when you are in a business like your own, where Zerodha is about finance, right? And the financial industry is definitely a reflection of the VUCA world that we talk about all the time, right? Yeah. So volatile, uncertain, chaotic, ambiguous, right? Yeah. So that being the case, how have you all managed to really be this top broker, And of course, you yourself don't have experience, because someone is asking whether you had experience. So I'm just going to take that off very quickly off the table and say you don't have that financial experience, but you all have still been able to, take it up to that level. So what have you all done right that has enabled you to kind of, scale up your operations and kind of fight off competition?
Yeah, I have. Now I have some experience in finance. I've never traded in my life. Okay. We built a trading platform. Lots of people use it. I've never traded on it. So I have zero financial background. But Nitin is very passionate about it. Before he started Zerodha, he was a trader, he was an investor, he was in this industry for close to 15 years. So he understood it inside out, extremely deep intuition and depth. And he started Zerodha in 2010 in its original form to solve the problems that he faced. So it wasn't that he just went and picked a problem to solve. He really had domain expertise and immense amounts of knowledge. So when you start out like that, where you're trying to solve a problem that you really understand, and it's ingrained in you, then the odds of succeeding automatically go high. If your competition is, let's say somebody who's just come up with the idea to become a stock brokerage, yeah, they may be able to succeed. It's all a matter of odds. But when you already have a really strong footing to begin with. So I think that's very important. We understand today as Zerodha, we understand this space really well, intuitively. We are able to empathize with the end users, understand their psychology, because the people who started, they understood it very intuitively. Secondly, all the things that we've spoken about so far, it's an extremely risky industry. One bad move could just wipe you out. So you have to be very conservative and conscious. Now, if you want to grow fast, attain millions of users, you can't be conservative or cautious. But we've never wanted to grow really fast or attain millions of users or attain X revenue targets. So we've always played it safe, and every bit of growth that Zerodha has had, new offerings and whatnot, we've done it all very organically after building great conviction, after understanding problems really well. So that again increases your odds of success significantly, because you're playing it very safe. You're not in a rush to beat someone or be number one or whatever. And then of course, you need competence in technology, competence in understanding the problem space, competence in running a business. Luckily, we happen to have the right competencies in all these fields. And we worked really hard, day in, day out. We still do. So you put all of these together, no guarantees whatsoever. And the external factors also kick in: right place, right time, market conditions. As I said, I got into this industry because I saw that there was no technology happening. And as a technologist, I thought I could build lots of new things. And being able to build something new that nobody else is building is very interesting. So all of these put together, and the right place, right time, right people, right time, right wavelength, playing it safe, competence, being grounded, and luck. And you end up being, the biggest number one, whatever. So it's been very organic, unpredictable. We never wanted to be number one. We've never aimed. It just happened.
Great. And we wish you all the best even more. I'm going to ask you one last question on Zerodha before we move on to talking about other points. But the question here was, one is, why don't you all do any marketing? The other was, when are you all expanding into new geographies? So I think we'll take that very quickly about Zerodha and then move on. Tell me.
Very philosophical. So we believe that this is an extremely risky thing, right? Most people who come to stock markets to trade and make money lose money. We understand and accept that reality. I think it's very difficult for brokers who make money from traders to say that, yeah, most traders lose money. We've never shied away from that. Nitin is very open about it. Very recently, he said that 99% of our clients actually lose money trying to make money. And it was big news, because what sort of broker would come out and say the reality, right? But if that is the reality, you just have to accept it. So that's why we don't market. We find it unethical and kind of nonsensical to market such a risky prospect to people. And what is marketing? It's really manipulating. Nice shiny ads, whatever. No matter how clean it looks, it is still at the end of the day selling something hard to a bunch of unknown users. We don't want to do that. So what our philosophy is that we build the best technology, best services that we can in our capacity. And people who want to trade out of their own volition, people who understand the risk, let them come use us. If they don't come use us, that's okay. We don't want to get tens of hundreds of millions of users. We're not chasing anything. So that's why we don't market. Two reasons. One is the product philosophy, and one is the ethical aspect. And other geographies regulate. Stockbroking is an extremely complex business. As I said, we have 5 regulators, and the number of legalities and compliance things that we have to comply with is immense, and it's really hard. And it is so risky. So just managing one geography in itself is an extremely complex prospect. Now, we could attempt to go set up brokerages in other countries, but the core people who run Zerodha with a certain philosophy, we may not be able to replicate it in a different market. Forget understanding the nuances, legalities, compliance, psychology of a whole different market, etc. And like I said, honestly, we don't really care. Why should we expand to other markets if we're okay being here? So yeah, multiple reasons.
Wow, those are some really honest answers, and I think truly appreciate that. Absolutely. So one more last question on Zerodha. I'm sorry, I lied. Did I lie? I wasn't planning.
No, it's okay.
Which is the technology used? So fairly specific question. What is the technology you had in mind or used when you got started with Zerodha?
We use a variety of technologies. The right tool for the right job. Big proponents of that. We use, to be very specific, we use Python heavily, and we use Go heavily. I was experimenting with Go as a programming language in around 2013. Go came out, I think, in 2009-10. I was experimenting with it, building small little hobby projects, tinkering. And at Zerodha, I saw a problem that I thought could be solved with Go, and we experimented, and it just worked out really well. And ever since we've transitioned more and more technologies at Zerodha software to Go, then we have a whole suite of software. I mean, we self-host open source software. We pick and choose the best possible solutions for the right jobs, from Postgres database to Redis database to these programming languages. It's just standard stuff, just picked and assembled carefully.
So another question is about blockchain being so involved in finance. How do you see that folding up in the next decade?
I have no idea. I mean, blockchain, I understand blockchain as a technology, but I don't really understand its use cases, especially in finance, given the huge amounts of volatility and uncertainty. Uncertainty with cryptos, with NFTs and whatnot. So
that was my next question, actually. So what do you think about cryptocurrency?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't care either on a personal level. What is apparent and what is evident is that, yes, the theoretical benefits seem to have value, that it's trustless, decentralized, tamper resistant. But if you look at what's happening in practice, it's just volatility, uncertainty, huge amounts of scam, people losing money, making money. It's attracting a lot of charlatans because it's also unregulated. So yeah. I don't really have the foresight to see where it goes. Blockchain on its own is an interesting technology, but its cryptocurrency applications, honestly, I don't know. Yeah.
Great. Okay. One more technology question, and then again we'll move on. What are your thoughts on Metaverse and the whole Web 3.0 revolution? Look, you have to remember you're catering to the student community, right? So they want to know these answers.
I mean, what the hell is even Web3? That is, pardon my language. Web3, Metaverse, yes, at least points to something specific. People plug in, disconnect even more from their physical lives, plug into virtual reality, and there'll be large corporations trying to sell you stuff there also in virtual reality. So yeah, maybe there are, maybe it'll be used for entertainment, maybe it'll be used for commerce, whatever. Personally, I'll never plug into the Metaverse. I've never plugged into social media. I don't have any social media presence. So on a very personal level, I will not, and I don't care. But it might have, it might go wherever. Now, Web3 is a marketing term. Now, I remember Web 1.0. I was tinkering back then. I remember Web 2.0, the semantic web. I was tinkering back then. Now, this is not even Web 3.0. It's just Web 3 without a space in lowercase. And it's such an absurd marketing term. It's that is so vague. Nobody really has, no two people have the same answer, same definition for Web3. So lots of non-tech. It's also interesting because if you look at some of the biggest people talking about Web3, they're not really technologists. They're not, they're not software developers who worked on Web3. So it seems to be a concoction of decentralized finance, applic software running on blockchains. People, I don't really know. I mean, I will wait for actual use cases and real world applications to emerge in the whole so-called Web3 paradigm before even trying to look at it. Because right now, it just seems like a nonsensical term to me. Yeah.
So, if you look at the fintech industry, it seems to be driven more by entrepreneurs like you, right? Startups. You don't see banks investing in R&D, doing something unique or different, right? They're always catching up. Do you feel that there is a need really for banks to really invest? Because I think when you look at it from the global perspective, you see a lot that happens there, right? And the entire banking industry, in fact, is very tightly coupled in terms of, not just banking, actually banking, yes, banking, not finance, banking, right? Is so tightly coupled to ensure that, everything. In India, that's not the case. I mean, do you want to comment on that, or you think?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things that I've always wondered when I was younger also was, why does this startups app look really nice, and why does the government website suck? Why does this net banking website suck so much? I was thinking that in 2007, 2010, 2015. I'm thinking the same thing in 2022. Banks have unlimited amounts of money, unlimited resources, practically, unlimited resources. So why can't they just, get a nice UI design, make a decent net banking, app? This was a question that bugged me for such a long time. But now that I've been in the industry, I know the answer. It is not a matter of money. It's not a matter of investments. In fact, the amount of money banks and these large institutions spend on technology is mind-boggling. Humongous amounts of money, and most of it is really the result of technological inefficiency. If you build technology the right way, you could have probably saved, I don't know, 70-60% of the cost. I'm just pulling out numbers, but the issue is DNA. The issue is culture. I've realized that after speaking to banks, after working with banks, after working with so many legacy financial institutions, it's just that there is no culture that permeates from the very top that can really foster technological innovation. And it's not limited to banks. It's the case with old legacy organizations. They have bureaucracies, layers. They have a certain culture, inside. So when somebody joins the managed, let's say top position, they will have to have the wavelength of the existing culture. You have to maintain status quo. You can't just get somebody who's super excited about technology. You can't just bring them in and get them to, change everything, reshuffle departments, change the entire strategy and build a new app. That will not happen. The institutional resistance will not let that happen. So even if somebody really wants to make a nice, get a UI design agency to make a nice UI for a net banking app, it's not a matter of money or resources. It is just culture and resistance.
I used to market SAP many decades away. Don't ask. You won't find out my age. Okay. And we used to say, for ERP, that when you sell a ERP, we used to call it ek saal rona padega. And I think that's so true, right? Any kind of technological innovation, change, forget about innovation, just change, right? It's so difficult. So difficult because it's all about the culture, and that really is, and human behavior is probably one of the most difficult to make happen and change, right? So completely get one. So from tech to fintech to finance, right? How do we raise funds for startups?
I honestly don't know. As Zerodha, we've never raised funds. We've never taken any external funding whatsoever.
Whoa.
Completely bootstrapped from zero to wherever we are. We don't have any external investors pressurizing us. It's one of the, sorry, I missed out this really key point. You asked me earlier, how do we manage to, maintain, how do we manage to be grounded, to be safe, etc. Nobody's pressurizing us to do anything. If we had external investors, we'd be answerable to them. If we had taken VC or PE investment, they'd be asking, where are the returns? Where is the 5x returns? And Zerodha would have turned out to be a very different company. I personally would not have been involved under, that now that would be pressure. Somebody who's not grounded, an entity forcing you to just grow, or so that's really my view. But of course, there are nice investors who understand, and but they are really in the minority.
You're talking to another bootstrap entrepreneur, so I'm totally with you on that. No external money, it just causes too much of stress. And I think it's a very important message for the youngsters here who are looking to start up, that, they immediately want to start raising funds. And I mean, sure, there are different models, there are different people, there are different priorities. And you just have to go with and what feels right for you. I think really that is it, right? And finally, raising funds is again a huge, another, what you call it, session that we would need to have if we want to go down that stream. So we're coming to the end of our time with you, Kailash, and it's been so wonderful to talk to you and really understand so much more about being an absurdist first. And then, of course, the rest of it. I think I really want to end on your work with the social angle of what you are doing. One is, of course, the FOSS, NGO that you're working with in terms of technology, but also the Rain Matter Foundation. Do you want to quickly maybe say a couple of words on both of them? I think it would be really awesome to know that side of you as well. Yeah.
Sure. FOSS United, it's an extension of again, what I do every day, which is use free and open source software, write free and open source software and give it out there and just be engaged. So FOSS United aims to fund FOSS projects, hobby projects, and try and foster that in India. We're trying to build a community. We've given out many open source grants, no strings attached. If you're building an open source project, which anybody can freely use, and it has some utility, we are ready to fund it. No strings attached, no questions asked. So that's really, you need to foster that culture of innovation for the joy of it. That's why I am, software development is really writing software, right? That's really my biggest hobby, and I enjoy it unconditionally. When I see people enjoying it unconditionally as a hobby, I have great respect. And I think people like that are kind of primed to do things that really help out others on a large scale at whatever point. It's just a matter of odds. So when we see projects like that, we want to help fund, foster the spirit of hacking and open source culture. That's FOSS United. Rain Matter, it's more complicated than that. As I have an extremely bleak view of the future of humanity, and I mean, it sounds all hoo-ha and hand-wavy, but that's just my personal view. Because of the crazy amounts of destruction that our relentless need for growth, industrial growth, business growth, everybody wants growth, unsustainable growth has brought upon this planet. Climate change is a huge issue. We're going to see billions of people displaced, countless number of species displaced. It's just going to be really bad. And we're already seeing signs, right? Melting icebergs, acidifying oceans, wildfires everywhere, floods, erratic monsoons, it's all here. So Rain Matter aims to, it's not even scratching the surface. This is not a problem you can fix by building technology or funding startups or whatever. But thankfully, Zerodha is successful. Zerodha has resources. Fintech is one thing. We like doing it because for whatever reasons, but we'd like to use these resources to try and do some useful things. Maybe it's just a dot of a dot in this area that that really concerns us. It concerns me personally gravely. Nitin shares the same views. So that's why we set up Rainmatter Foundation to use the success that we have at Zerodha to just look at this one grave problem. We're not deluded to think that we're suddenly going to change the world. It's probably not going to make any difference, but at least we tried.
That's the first step towards any kind of change. And ultimately, I think our world is so interlinked that it's not about social and sustainable change. It's about change for all of us, right? It's just change. And then that's so important, positive change. And that's why I tend to use the word positive. The other line I'm going to come quickly end, I can see, Roy already waiting for us, is really about the last line of your profile that says the irrational hatred of people for others, right? And I truly believe that peace is that ultimate indicator of development. So if we are talking of growth, we are talking about success, we're talking about development, I think peace will only come when we stop having that irrational hatred. So glad to meet you. It was truly wonderful getting to know you better, Kailash. And thank you very much on behalf of all of us over here. Over to you, Roy.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Kailash sir, for taking time out to join us for this conversation and offer insights in how do you think and perspective. And also thanks for Ms. Karan ma'am for being a wonderful moderator. I think everyone in the audience, not just the IT Bombay students, but all of us who join, they can actually have certain insightful pointers on pertinent topics about how you think and on matters which actually do matter. So with that, I would like to bring an end to this session. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, sir, for being a part of this wonderful e-talk show.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Yeah, bye.